What is the JANET Network Resolver Service, also known as JNRS? So JNRS is probably better named as a protective DNS. Oh, back a slide, Paul. Thanks. Protective DNS services interrogate DNS queries and take action to mitigate threats. We ingest live threat feeds from the NCSE and commercial providers to protect the sector. Once you're enrolled upon the service, there is an immediate security improvement. Protective DNS prevents access known to malware, ransomware, phishing attacks, viruses, malicious websites, and spyware. If you cannot reach a known malicious site, phishing is less effective and command and control cannot dial home. Next slide, please. Why choose JNRS? JNRS is included with your network connection at no additional cost. It helps to protect your organization by preventing connected devices from accessing malicious websites. Working with NRENs, we use passive DNS to supplement commercial RPZ feeds. JNRS can protect your users and your reputation. Next slide, please. Following the recent papercut vulnerability, Paul Nee, head of protected services, said organizations subscribed to JNRS were protected against onward compromise following active exploitation of the recent papercut vulnerability. This is a real-life scenario where JNRS can support you and your organization. Next slide, please. How to apply. Applications are simple. Simply register for our cybersecurity portal and apply for the JANET Network Resolver service. There are two types of application. Standard applications use your JANET IP ranges, and bespoke applications can include cloud setups such as Azure and static IP addresses. Next slide, please. Onboarding is simple. Standard or bespoke IP addresses are added to our ACLs. We send configuration advice for you to test, and you change your forwarder settings to our DNS resolvers. If you're experiencing any difficulties, our team can be on hand to support you with the transition. Next slide, please. What happens when something is blocked? When a web page is blocked, this is a sample of the page that is presented. We add your provided email to replace the red text, so your customers are aimed to your own help desks. If necessary, your help desk can contact CSIRT for further investigations. Additionally, you have the option to report false positives with a quick turnaround time. It is an all or nothing approach. If the domain is classed as malicious, we are not able to allow it just for your organization. We block access when a domain is classed as phishing or malicious. JNRS should not be confused with a content filtering service. We are not filtering adult material or gambling, for example. Next slide, please. Here are some stats for the JANET Network Resolver service. As you can see, we've currently got 337 subscriber organizations, and you'll notice from the JNRS queries chart, the amount of queries per month. The dips represent periods of exams or holidays. JNRS has plenty of capacity for growth. Next slide, please. To summarize, JNRS is accessed with no additional local resources. Standard deployment is quick and easy to set up and is included as part of your network connection. There are immediate security benefits to signing up to JNRS, and the data is used to improve the sector without any privacy concerns. Next slide, please. Excuse me, sorry. Primary name server service. Next slide, please. What is the primary name server service? PNS is an authoritative name server service. PNS holds and maintains the primary source of domain information for JANET network connected organizations. Our core service allows you to publish and manage DNS records on a central name server through a secure web portal. Supported by secondary name servers to provide high availability and give you added peace of mind. The name servers are all situated on the JANET network backbone and are geographically separated as a precaution against risks such as fire or network connection failure. Next slide, please. Why choose PNS? Primary name server, PNS, is again included with your network connection at no additional cost. You can access and maintain your zone files 24/7 via the web-based user interface. A centrally managed service and reliable and resilient, and can help protect your web presence and email in the event of ransomware or internet connection failure. We previously supported a compromised university to onboard them to PNS with minimal zone file to support their critical services. The organisation was then able to access the zone file and build from this. Next slide, please. Applications for PNS are via the service webpage. When applying, please include details of a primary and secondary authorised contact and provide the domains to be published by PNS. It is highly important that you keep your contacts updated. If you have an issue and contact us urgently, we do not want to waste your time by validating the request. Equally, we need to be able to notify you of upcoming maintenance or service improvements. Next slide, please. Onboarding is simple. Users' accounts are created and the zone information is populated from the provided source information. You redelegate your name servers to the PNS name servers, and we provide support. We understand that things can be challenging when onboarding to a new service. It previously took an organisation 8 years to complete the redelegation step. If you have challenges, our team are available to support you. Next slide, please. To summarise, PNS is available to Janet-connected organisations at no additional cost. It's available 24/7 via the website user interface. Maintain your business continuity web presence and email even if your connection is down. Flexible service options available. Host your full DNS records or simply a subdomain. PNS is centrally managed service with lower overheads, reliable and resilient, and supports both IPv4 and IPv6. Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, everyone.
Hi there, over to Claire, please.
Thank you, Paul. Good morning, everyone. My name is Claire Stonebridge. I'm a Network Security Services Manager. I've been at Jisc for coming up 12 years, been involved with lots of services, some of the ones that Carol just talked about, plus a couple that I'm going to mention now. Next slide, please, Paul. So what I'm talking about this morning is network time. We used to call this NTP, just in case there's any confusion, but we've renamed it. So the network time is there to synchronize computer clock times in your network to within a few milliseconds. This ensures your devices are connected to your IP network and they are adjusted to the same time. The time synchronization is critical on a modern infrastructure network. We see it as essential for ensuring staff and students don't miss meetings or lectures and for enabling your security teams to operate efficiently. Next slide, please. I'd just like to go through the benefits of this network time. What we're talking about is we're using Stratum 1 time servers. They are providing geographic distribution across the network, so we've got various time servers across the UK. We also deliver a reliable and accurate time reference across your network for key security systems. And we also allow for correct synchronization across all platforms to enable accurate logging of security events and alerts. And this is obviously something that's pretty important to most people. Next slide, please. A bit like Carol said earlier, so if you want to apply for the service, applications are via the service webpage and the link on there. What we will do is we'll process your application and come back to you with configuration information. And it's all fairly straightforward from there on. Next slide, please. And what I want to talk to you briefly is the Defenders 1 campaign. Obviously, this is what we're focused on today. The campaign has been around for a little while. We had the information around about trying to build robust defences across the sector. This is all about strengthening your organisation's security posture, and then we can all work together and share intelligence, experiences, and best practice to better protect the sector. On the slide here, there's a link which basically takes you to the next steps in improving your organization's security posture. That's on our website. And what we would do is we give you information on how you can get access to these services. And all of these services, as we said at the start, are included with your Janet network connection. So it's just another step that you can take to just make sure you're making the best value and use of the services that are available to you. Next slide, please. And then the next topic I'm talking about briefly is the Foundation DDoS mitigation service. Next slide, please. So the Foundation DDoS mitigation service, this protects your Janet connectivity from DDoS attacks. It gives you that peace of mind during critical hours, helps reduce network disruption, and is available during business hours, on call, after hours, and at weekends. Next slide, please. So what do you get with this? Well, it's something that you don't need to apply for. It becomes as part of your Janet network connection, and we provide standard DDoS protection to defend against attacks, thus ensuring your online access, including vital cloud resources, remain uninterrupted. What we do is we manually mitigate and alert you of DDoS attacks against your Janet network connection during business hours. And these DDoS alerts and mitigations are all visible to all connected organizations via the Jisc cybersecurity portal. Next slide, please. And while I'm talking, some more services that are under my remit are the optional automated DDoS mitigation services, critical services protection, and Foundation Plus. So these give you that additional enhancement of 24/7 DDoS protection across your Janet network connection, or if you want to protect key critical services. So on here is a QR code. We've got another session coming up in this series on Friday, which talks about resilience, and these two services are part of that. So if you'd like to join, I'd recommend that you come along on Friday at 2 o'clock. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Claire. If I could now hand over to David Basso, please, to run through our CSIRT team.
Good morning, everybody. So this morning we're talking about the CSIRT team and the services that you actually get within your membership. And the first thing is your membership, included in what you get, is a certified incident response team. So we have an accredited CSIRT team, both CREST and NCSE accredited CSIRT team. This is again part of your membership. And again, if you have an incident or you have a question around cyber incident issues, raise with the incident response team. They can help you on any kind of issue. It doesn't have to be a cyber incident. If you need advice and guidance, they're there to support you. Next slide, please, Paul. So really, I'm not going to go too much in the landscape. We talked very much around this at the security conference, but again, I'll reiterate a few key things. Phishing is still very much the route into organizations from most the key ransomware elements of it. Carol has talked about blocking as well. We will block using JNRS as well, so we can reduce some of that for you. But a lot of this comes down to lack of monitoring, and very keen to talk about a bit about the lack of monitoring in cyber. And how do we monitor it more effectively? We talk about CSTM, we talk about other services that we have, and we'll talk a bit about those later. But of course, this all leads to going into ransomware as still the key target. And I will kind of state that education is still targeted as a primary target in the UK. So if you look at Vice Society, look at the bigger groups, 35% of that group targeted education in the UK. So we are a prime target in the UK. Next slide, please, Paul. So if we look at major incidents, and when I talk about major incidents over the last 12, 18 months, major incident is where an organization business as usual has failed. They can no longer operate their business effectively, or they have come to a grinding halt. So originally back in 2022, fourth quarter, we had 5 major incidents. So the 5 organizations, both FE and HE, that were unable to operate for a period of time within or following a major incident. Now, what you'll notice through this, you'll see a pre-major incident. The team, and we'll talk a bit about the team structure and protective services in a second. The team have done a lot of work around proactive detection and blocking and working with organizations earlier before a major incident comes in. So the team have been developing tools and working with agencies to ensure that if there's starting to be talk about a particular organization, they are already trying to block them and working with the organizations to ensure that they are blocked or mitigations are put in place before they get to your organization. So what you'll notice throughout 2023, we did one preemptive in the first quarter of 2023. In the second quarter, we did 2 preemptive major incidents. These are, bear with me as my lights go out in the room. What you'll notice is that we landed up within the third quarter of 2023. We had 3 major incidents, but 12 pre-major incidents. So we stopped 5 out of 6 ransomwares related to incidents by Jisc. So we stopped the final part of a double extortion attack by stopping the encryption before it got it as a problem, which is fantastic. So we're doing a lot more work, and within Jisc, this is part of your membership to stop major incidents within your organization. So moving on, Paul, thank you. Go next. If you open them all up, Paul, please make, there's quite a few bits of it. Thank you. And I'll talk about each one. There we are. Thank you. So what do you get in your membership and what is part of protective services? So there are 4 key elements of the protective services team. There is the incident response team. These are the initial team that do the incident management and incident response. They will do the containment, eradication, and recovery support. So they will work with you if you have a major incident. We can do all the way from the 6 phase of incident response, from containment all the way to the eradication phase to support you guys throughout that. The team are qualified and credited in CrowdStrike. So we deploy CrowdStrike as the XDR, EDR platform. And not just that, one of the key things we talked about at Security Conference, and we already had Claire talk about the defenders, one element. The key element for me is prevention is better than cure. And therefore, what we're doing is a lot of workshops like today, which is around hardening of Active Directories, M365, Azure, AWS, security workshops to help you ensure that your infrastructure is secure to reduce the threat within your organization. The CSIRT is your first point of call. Again, it has been mentioned today. Make sure your security contacts are up to date because my team will need to know the security contact within your organization. Then the other part of the team is that the CTI, your threat intelligence team. This team will look at the current landscape, they analyze the threat landscape, they look at exploits and monitor threats in the educational sector. They do threat profiling. So we talk about the cybersecurity community. Within that community, we do a lot of work around providing you what are the tools they're using, what methods they're using. We tell you what are the key threat actor groups within the UK that are targeting education. And we do a lot of work around not just within the educational sector, but we work with other agencies to share threat intelligence. As I said numerous times over the last few weeks, threat intelligence is at the heart of what we need to do to protect the educational sector and the sector that we all are passionate about. We have to ensure that we share the intelligence across the sector. And we talk about MISP, so the sharing platforms that are coming online at the moment, those are to allow you to do that. And that threat intelligence group are developing these tools aggressively and fast to ensure that we protect the sector. Claire's already mentioned this, the defensive teams. These are the teams that monitor and mitigate DDoS attacks against the JANET network. But they also protect the JANET network if there is a major incident. So when the CSIRT team are having an incident, we can contain your network at the JANET layer. So we can protect it all the way to the MRS, block certain traffic in, allow certain traffic in. Reason why is because you still need to operate something. So Microsoft updates, VMware updates, whatever services are required to deliver your service. And last but not least is the digital forensics team. The digital forensics team, whilst the incident response team do their bit about incident management, the containment phase, eradication phase, behind the scenes, the forensics teams will start identifying the IOCs, the indicators of compromise, look at the way the threat actor got into your infrastructure, what information did they touch, what was exfiltrated. They will also look at the root cause analysis. How did they get into my infrastructure? So this is all part of membership. And last but not least, they will provide a report on what and how the threat actor got in your infrastructure. Again, these are part of your membership, and it's really key that you use the service, not just if you have a major incident, but if you need advice, guidance on certain things as well. But this doesn't stop there. The team are have to be accredited. We are one of 16 companies in the UK that are NCSC level 2 accredited. The team is CREST accredited as well, so we have a CREST accredited CSIRT. But as the team develops and as we change, it's not just about providing those core 4 services within protective services. They provide advice, guidance, and work with the cyber community, which I know we're going to talk about later today. So these are all part of your membership. This is all about prevention is better than cure. But if you are having an issue, use the CSIRT team. They're there within your membership. Paul, next slide. Over to you, Paul.
Thank you, David. Just wanted to sort of end really before we go into the Q&As and look into the chat. So it's around the cyber community. The cyber community now is over 1,600 strong. It's open to every one of our sort of members and customers. The whole point of the community is, as David mentioned it, to provide threat briefings. We're going to be running a full program of each month, a number of workshops and sessions. I think just before the security conference, we ran a threat briefing jointly with the NCSC, and we're working closely with all of our strategic partnerships so that we can look to pull out a whole calendar of events over the next 12 months before we roll into next year's security conference. It keeps that community working together. It gives us that platform to interact with each other, and it's there for you to post questions. Not only can we help with that, but obviously your colleagues and peer-to-peer networking. So if you're not registered or colleagues of yours in your institution are not registered, please take a scan of this. There's a link in the chat, but also the QR code will run you into the community. So I think we're now over to any questions from anyone, if you like. I'll just try to go back to the chat. Now I've got my screen back and see if we've got any in the chat. Other than a couple of the things at the moment, I can't see any questions. I don't know if anybody's got anything or would like to come off mute. I don't know if anybody would like to post any questions at all. Please do. You're more than welcome to come off the mute. If you've got any questions on any of the services that were mentioned today, either JNRS or through, I mean, with all of the services, as the links in the chat, they are there just for you to activate them, but obviously they will need to be activated. So just to reinforce that, you will need to activate JNRS NTP.
So I've got a quick question about NTP. We already use the ja.net NTP servers, but we're not registered on any kind of NTP service. So what's the difference?
So that is the same service essentially. So what we've in the past, we've published the information on other sites, and I think that may be where you've got the configuration information. It just helps us if we have registrations, and then we can ensure we've got the right contacts, like David and Carol were saying earlier. If we have to do any maintenance or any service updates, then we can at least make sure you're alerted. So that's, if you want to reapply, that's fine. It'll be good to have your contact records on detail.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
There was just in the chat, I did notice from Marion, unfortunately it does clash with that session in the community, but we are recording the drop-in, so we will share that with you guys afterwards on the one on Friday. It's a bit unfortunate, but it has clashed on terms of the timing. I think you must have arrived too late for the link. We'll make sure that all the links to all the services are posted, but also they are on the slide deck, and we will share the slide deck with you. Thanks for the presentation. Now we go over to Paul Tony. We use JNRS in addition to having our own RPZ feeds we subscribe to. Do you have any list of the services Jisc subscribes to that we can see? they're the same as we already subscribe to or overlap. I don't know if it makes any sense to anyone, but I'm sure it does with somebody on the call here. I don't know if anybody, sorry, David. Yeah.
I was just going to say, we've got quite a substantial number of lists that the team have. We can probably cover some of them, but some of them we can't discuss. I'll catch up with Carol and we'll get something back to you.
Thanks, David.
Don't know if anybody else has got any other questions. You're more than welcome to come off and mute. I mean, obviously we've got a team of experts here, so it might not even be about the services that we're talking about, but just in general, obviously this session is aimed at sort of just really reiterating the fact of all of these services are included in your membership, but they do require you to activate them. And as David said, the CSIRT team is there to be proactive, not necessarily just when there's something happened to your institution. Without a doubt, please post a question to them and also fully use the community. It's there as a proactive tool to share issues, advice off both ourselves and colleagues. Answer any more questions? I don't know if anybody's got any last words from any of the cyber team that they would like to share, or any wonderful advice and guidance. But we're finished nice and early, so you've managed to get 20 days of your, 20 minutes back of your day today. Thanks so much all, and thanks to all the speakers for coming forward today. And as we say, this is really just to reiterate.
Just before, sorry, Paul.
Yeah, sorry, David.
Just before you end, Andrew Dixon's put something quite interesting in conversation really around as the JNRS service affect the prevent requirements. Prevent requirements are a content filtering on extremism. I assume that's what you're covering. It doesn't, because JNRS is very much focused on malware and malicious sites, not a content filtering. So you, unfortunately, the two are slightly different. Your JNRS is the prevention of bad IP or bad known IP, where your prevent is a legislation based around extremism, which is a content filtering element of it that you will monitor and you will capture that information. If that kind of helps.
It's a last call out. Has anybody got any more questions they would like to post? If so, come off mute, and if not, we'll wrap this session up. And thank you everybody for attending and stepping forward to present on their services. Thanks all.